Joining me now is former Director of Special Operations at the DEA, Derek Maltz. Also with us is Border Commerce and Security Council Chairman and former Special Assistant of the Department of Homeland Security Undersecretary of Intelligence, Nelson Balido. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Lydia.
So, Nelson, what do it's crazy because President Trump, he was in Aurora, Colorado, right? And he was there talking about all the issues. He even had a police chief with him talking about all the issues. You even have the mayor of Aurora, Colorado, saying 3 apartment complexes there have fallen to a Venezuelan prison gang. And the mayor himself is not even a fan of President Trump. He didn't go to the rally, but he criticized the federal government for thrusting all of these illegals into their community. And yet, when you look at the news, they say it's all a lie. I was just looking at a report on NBC News that they're saying it's not true. There isn't an illegal alien gang takeover, but that's patently false. So, Nelson, what do you think about this fake news that's happening and our media is refusing to cover the real story?
Lydia, I'll tell you. So this is the real story. And the Tran de Aragua that you see, that our viewers are seeing on camera there right now, is a gang that comes out of the Venezuelan, based out of Venezuela, but they also recruit others on the way, Colombians, Nicaraguans. When they get here, they partner with others. There was just a major seizure just 3 days ago in San Antonio, Texas. In fact, I was contacted by a local news source there that the same thing happened. The same gangs. These gangs are spreading, and they're taking over certain areas because that's what they do. That's what they do in Mexico. That's what they do in other areas of Latin America, and that's why you have these in-fight gangs wars. That's why you have these wars south of the border, because they're fighting for space, location, and they want to be able to have control of certain areas to distribute not only their illegal drugs, but also to bring human smuggling and any other chaos they can possibly bring in those areas. They get in there and they amass and they stick together. These are the kind of things that we don't know. Why? Because when people come over the border, a lot of these countries that we have over, like Venezuela, like Nicaragua, Cuba, and others, we don't share, or they don't share information with our government. We don't know where these people come from. We don't know their backgrounds. We take their word for it. They may have illegal documents that they have or fake documents. We simply don't know. And this is a perfect example of what happens when we let people in this country without knowing exactly who they are.
Right. We're seeing the numbers. More than over 90% of the people, the illegal aliens coming in, they're young men of military age. We're seeing the crime rate going down in Venezuela. You know, Derek, a lot of the attention is on this Tran de Aragua gang, TDA. But how concerned should we be about the resurgence of other brutal gangs here in New York? MS-13 is a big gang, but we're also seeing TDA, kind of run in the streets. So should we be worried about other gangs kind of trying to take over areas?
Yes, 100%. Thank you for having me, Lydia. So obviously, America needs leadership that actually focuses on America's best interest first and not last, right? So we have now something even bigger, in my opinion, brewing. Like, we've had the FBI director warning us for many, many months now, after October 7th, like the lights are blinking red. All these jihadists, these radical jihadists that have been, trained by Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, ISIS, are trying to get to the U.S. We know from operations like Project Cassandra that Hezbollah was very aligned with the Mexican cartels for many years with drugs and money laundering. Now, listen to the statement that the Attorney General makes this past week on that Jewish community thwarted attack. Like, all communities should not have to fear terrorist attacks. I agree, Mr. Attorney General, but why then are you letting in millions of unknown people that we can't vet? I mean, this is so fundamental. Your FBI director and your DHS security secretary, they're not even communicating, because as we're letting all these unknowns into our country, the Homeland Security officials are yelling about the lights are blinking red. And we have all these gangs, and it's way bigger than Tran de Aragua. Yes, you're right, Lydia. They're coming out of these countries, just like President Trump has warned, out of these prisons, these very violent gangs, and they're coming to our streets. Our communities are suffering. So it's really, really disappointing to see our own government is facilitating the entry of these very violent savages into our country, and also at the same time facilitating the death of our citizens from fentanyl and other crimes like at record levels.
Nelson, I'm running out of time, but I wanted to ask you both this question. So they arrested a migrant. He wanted to plan this really elaborate election day terror attack, right? Then we also know that on July 12th, the day before the Butler shooting, the assassination attempt on President Trump's life, we also had a Pakistani man. We don't know how he got into the country, which makes me think maybe he snuck his way in, right? The Asif merchant. So real quick, let me ask you, Nelson, and then you, Derek. How concerned should we be that we could see a terror attack? I know we were focusing a lot on the gangs and the crime and the sex trafficking and the drugs and this and that. But I mean, we could have actual terrorists that can converge, come together, and God only knows what they could do to us. Nelson, and then you, Derek.
Lydia, look, I'm convinced that they're here already. They're throughout the country. Keep in mind that when we have people that are crossing the border, when we say 100,000 people cross through, there's another 20,000 people, what we call our gotaways. We don't know who they are. We don't have any trace of them whatsoever. Absolutely, I think they're here. We should be vigilant. And there's only one party to blame, and that's the Biden administration for that, letting this thing happen. It's gone out of control, and this is the tip of the iceberg.
Derek?
Yeah, 100% agree with Nelson. I mean, we don't know what's in our country, but I know from doing my job at the Special Operations Division, people that hate America have been trying to get into this country for years to set up operations. And right now, especially after October 7th, there's such an influx of people trying to get here that are getting here, and we don't even know who they are. And I'd like to know from CBP, how come we're not publishing the true got-away numbers? Why is that being hidden from us? We only know because we're getting leaks from people that care about America.
Excellent question, Derek Maltz, Nelson Balido. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, coming up, we speak to our very own Dick Morris about the state of the race, and he'll tell you, guess what? It's tipping towards Trump. More of the count after this.